Okay, I'm audible. Hello, everyone.
Yes, yes, you are audible. At least you are audible to me.
Okay. Sir, my screen is visible now.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. So, today we will talk about hierarchical clustering and spectral clustering and the application of spectral clustering. So, I will cover two topics like hierarchical clustering and the spectral clustering. And in hierarchical clustering, I will cover single linkage clustering and complete linkage clustering. Okay, and the other things will cover by Ashraf after me. So we'll start with the hierarchical clustering. So basically, all of you know what is clustering. So basically, clustering is like what we do in clustering. We just hello. Oh, sorry. Okay. So in clustering, we group the set of objects that have similar property. Okay. In hierarchical clustering also we are doing the same thing, but here we are doing with different way. So basically here we will take each point as a different cluster initially. Okay. And after that, basically we will do two things: identify the two closest cluster that they have same property, we will merge them. Okay. And we will form a new cluster, and then we repeat the process again. Like if there is some other similar property, we'll find some other point, then we will merge those. Okay. So this is the concept. And after that we will repeat the process, and at last we will get only one cluster. So in hierarchical clustering we will represent this cluster with the help of dendrogram. Okay, I will show like how. So this is the basic concept, like how clustering is work. So here we can see like there are 2 points, they hold the similar property or features, so we will merge them. Okay. Okay, discard this one for now. Actually this one is, I think, error. So take these 2 points and we will merge this thing. Okay, these are the similar things, or they are near to, means they have closest distance. Okay. So and after that we will take these two cluster, and we make one cluster by using this. And after that we will take this point also, and we will make cluster. And when the two clusters are remain, we will make one cluster by using this thing. Okay. So hierarchical clustering are basically two types. One is, so this thing is we in clustering we can perform. So in clustering, basically how we do clustering, like hierarchical clustering. Okay, so here we use two methods, like single link clustering and the complete link clustering. So in single link clustering, what we do, we use we use the single link clustering where the 2 points have minimum distance. So if the distance is minimum, then we can merge them like in one cluster. Okay. uh, okay, so we will merge the two those 2 points. Okay, for that, after these 2 points will make one cluster, and then we will repeat the process again. Like we will check like which cluster is near to this one, so we will merge again. So after that we will get one cluster at the end. In single linkage we will do the same thing. So here we can say like that the distance between two clusters is minimum, then we can merge. Okay, so here we will start with the single linkage clustering. So here we will import the basic libraries like NumPy, Pandas, and Matplotlib for plotting. And here we are using SciPy library for clustering predefined algorithms, and square form and p distance. Like here we will calculate the distance between equilibrium distance and etc. So here we will generate some random points, like we are generating 5 points here. So we can see A and B have 5. We'll generate 5 here. With the help of this we'll generate 5. Okay, I have run this. So we'll generate it, we can print it like how it is will look like. So we can see there are 5 points are generated, and after that we will we will after generating the random data points, we will create a Panda data frame. So with the help of this, we will get this kind of data frame like point P1, P2, P3 and their coordinates where it will lies. Okay. So after that, we will visualize it like on the scattered plot also. So these 5 points will be look like this. So I have generated random points, so it will vary actually. So yeah, so we can see like P1, P2, P3, P4, P5. So these points will lie here. And after that, we calculate the equilibrium distance using the pdist. So pdist function we have used here. So it will calculate the equilibrium distance between those points. So it will calculate the P1 distance between P1 and P1. It will always 0. So and for all the points like in the diagonal, we will get always 0 because their P1 to P1 is always 0. And if P1 to P2 is the distance is this, and P3 from P1 it is 0.750, it is P1 to P4 is 0.670, P1 to P5 is 0.280. So the we can see so this thing is like we can look only the upper triangular matrix or lower triangular matrix because they are same on upper triangular and lower triangular. Okay, we will see only one side. So you can we can check only the lowest value. So here we can see like here 0.220227 is the lowest one. So we will merge those two value and will make a cluster. Okay, so now this is become one cluster. Okay, after that this will become one cluster and we will perform this operation again. So we recompute the distance matrix after forming a new cluster. So here and update the value there. Okay, so now here we will get 4 clusters P1, P2, sorry, here we are merging P3 and sorry, yeah, P3 and P4. So here we will get 4 things like 4 clusters P1, P2, P3, P4 combinedly come here and P5. Okay, and then again we will do the same process again till we get one cluster only. So when we repeat the here I'm using libraries, so step by step solution is not here. So after that at the end we will get only one cluster. So we will see like we will plot the dendrogram to see like which cluster is which points are making cluster with other points. So here we have seen like P1 and P5 create one cluster and P3 and P4 create one cluster, and after that this cluster will merge with this P2 point, and after that this point will merge with this point. So this is how we will form the cluster. So this is our one cluster, this is our second cluster, third cluster, and this is the bigger one. Okay, so at the end we will get all the cluster merge and we will get the result like how many clusters we have. So here we have 4. Okay, so this is the concept for single linkage clustering. So now we will go with the complete linkage. In complete linkage also it is similar to single linkage, but here we will see the maximum distance. In the single linkage we are seeing the minimum distance, the same concept, but here we are seeing the maximum distance. Okay, so if the distance is maximum, then we will merge those 2 points, otherwise we don't. So here we are calling the same libraries again and generating the random samples. Okay, and after that we create the data frame by using this. So and we will visualize it on the scattered plot. So this is how our data will look like. The 5 points you can generate more, and after that we will calculate the equilibrium distance with the help of pdist function. And so here we can say like in the diagonal you can say like all the data are 0, and here we will see the maximum value. So if value is maximum, then we will merge. So here we can see like P2 and P3 have maximum distance, so we will merge these two only. Okay, after that we will apply the same process again, and at the end we will get one cluster. So here we can and And after that we will create a dendrogram of it. Like here we can see like P1 and P2 will create one cluster. Here we see like P3 and P5 will create one cluster, and after that P, P3 P5 will combine with P4 and create one cluster, and at the end we will these two also combined and create a separate cluster thing. Okay, this is how complete linkage is working. So the next is spectral clustering. So spectral clustering is basically a part of clustering. Here we use clustering with the graphical methods. Okay, here we find the eigenvalue and eigenvector. With the help of these things we will try to do clustering. Okay, so these are the process, like these are the steps how we do it. So in the first we form the distance matrix between, like here you can see like from one node. If you consider the node 1, then from node 1 we will see how many edges are going from node 1. So it is 1 2 3. So we will, by using this, we will form a distance matrix, and transform the distance matrix with an affinity matrix A, and after that we compute the degree matrix D, and Laplacian matrix. For Laplacian we will minus the degree matrix with affinity matrix. Okay, so this is how we will get the Laplacian matrix. So here it is shown like what is. So after that we will find the eigenvalue and eigenvector of Laplacian matrix. With the help of eigenvector of k nearest neighbor eigenvalues, compute the previous step to form the matrix again. So we will compute these step again and again, and we will update the matrix and normalize the vector after that. And the cluster data points in the k dimensional state, we will create the cluster using the k dimension space. Okay, so here we are using 2. So here we are using sklearn library for it. So with the help of sklearn library we can call the spectral clustering. So here we use two clusters, and here like we are using affinity as nearest neighbor, and k means algorithm we are using. So basically we will fit the model with the data point x. X is basically the data point. I am doing it with manually, so I have defined here. So here this is the data point x I am using, and after that we will plot the figure like how spectral clustering will look like. So it will look like this, and our original data will be look like this. So this is how the spectral clustering is working. So this is our original data, and after spectral clustering we are getting like this. So there are two clusters we will form. Like this one is the nearest neighbor points, and this is other nearest neighbor points. So this is how the spectral clustering work with the help of scikit-learn library I used. And here also I am using it, like it is not complete, I am doing it manually. I will complete and I will upload that thing. So this is the thing I have to present in this lab. So if you have any questions you can ask.
So, sir, can you explain how eigenvalues of Laplacian matrix help to cluster it?
What? Sorry. Can you repeat your question?
So, the role of eigenvalues in clustering.
I'm not able to hear you clearly, sir.
Hello, sir, I'm audible.
Yeah. Okay. Can you please write in chat? Okay, what is eigenvalues in clustering? Okay, so here we are calculating eigenvalues. With the help of eigenvalues, actually we are trying to cluster the points. Okay, here we are calculating the eigenvalues and eigenvectors also. So after calculating, we are sorting the eigenvalues, and with the help of that, we are trying to cluster. Hello, I'm audible. Okay. Yeah. Anything else? Or Ashraf will continue.
Should I start presenting?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Ashraf, you can continue now. Thank you.
Guys, is my screen visible?
Yes, sir, visible.
Yeah. Okay. Guys, I'm Ashraf and I'll take over the session. So first we'll discuss a small application of spectral clustering, which is related to image segmentation. And after that, we will see a code related to multivariate linear regression with using the gradient descent algorithm. So we'll see both full batch gradient descent and mini batch version of gradient descent. So let's just start with the spectral clustering algorithm that is being used for image segmentation. And I will explain using this Python notebook, which I'll upload it right after I finish this session. So guys, when you have been given an image, so if you can remember in the very beginning part of the lab sessions, like the first 2 to 3 labs, we discussed about basics of image processing using Python. And in there, we saw that we can consider an image as a grid of pixels. We can consider them as matrix in which each entry represents a particular pixel value. And right now, for the segmentation problem, we'll see a little bit different perspective of an image in which we will consider the image as a graph of pixels. So earlier where we were looking it as a matrix, now we'll consider the image as a graph. And what we'll do is we'll first generate an image which is of this format. It contains 4 circles along with some randomly generated noise, and we'll try to do the segmentation of the circles. So the first part over here is importing some libraries which will be helpful for this task. And like most of the machine learning tasks in Python, we'll just import NumPy and some of the packages from sklearn. So we are importing image package from sklearn.feature extraction, and we are importing spectral clustering from sklearn.cluster package. And after that, there are some codes that are responsible for creating that image that we will be using. So it's just I'll just leave it out, and then we'll come into the part where we are interested in, which is spectral clustering for segmenting the image. Now, can anyone help me out in just understanding what is the very first thing that is required for doing the spectral clustering over here? Like Abhishek also said. Guys, spectral clustering works on Laplacian matrix, and so we'll need to create the Laplacian matrix first. In order to do that, first what we do is we take the image and we convert it and we create a graph out of it. So we will use the image function from sklearn.featureExtraction package, the image class from sklearn.featureExtraction package, and we'll call the function img2graph. So it will convert your given image into a graph data format. And after converting it to a graph data format, we will try to measure the similarity of the graph, which we use using a Gaussian neighborhood kernel. And then once we do that, once we create the similarity matrix, we'll just use the spectral clustering function from sklearn.cluster. So the spectral clustering algorithm takes the following input. The first is the graph on which it will work. The second argument will be number of clusters, and other than this, there are some further arguments that will control its behavior. One of them is what type of eigensolver do you want. So this is a default eigensolver parameter that sklearn has. Now, once you pass these parameters to the spectral clustering function, you will get the cluster labels, and then you just need to mark which pixel belongs to which cluster, or which pixel has.
Sir, please elaborate this graph data type.
Yes, please come again.
Can you please elaborate on this graph data type?
This one, line 7.
No, I wanted to ask whether what kind of graph is this? Like, is this the original X and Y type, or is it that with nodes and all?
Yeah, so every pixel is being considered as a separate node, and their interrelation is being represented by the graph.
Okay, got it.
So if this current figure that will be generating is of dimension 100 cross 100, that means you will have a total number of nodes which equal to 10 to the power 4, that is 100 into 100.
How are the different nodes connected in this?
So the different nodes, they will be will be using their intensity values for creating the weights of the edges. So this particular thing over here will be using this Gaussian kernel as the weights of the edges between each particular node.
No, are they like fully connected or only to the neighboring pixels, like the neighboring?
You can create it in both the ways. They can be like created connected only to the neighbors, or they can be connected in this format in which you have a Gaussian kernel. So you have certain width of the kernel that you can vary uh, to just incorporate different neighborhoods. So the creation of graph and how do you want to do it is uh, in your control. So you can try out different things also. Whether you want to take only 4 neighbors or you want to take 6 neighbors, 9 neighbors, you can do that, or you can utilize a Gaussian kernel. So you can do it in any way, which is relevant to your problem. Okay, so after you pass the graph into spectral clustering function, it will just give you the label, and then you need to decide, just check out which pixel belongs to which label. And after that, we'll just do the plot. So one thing over here, we have to just notice that this example, we are not interested in separating the objects from the background. That's why we have used a mask that just masks out the background, and we focus only on the circle. So this is the original picture, and this is the final segmented version. So guys, this is what I had for spectral clustering. And now I would like to move on to gradient descent for multivariate linear regression.
So where are we creating the Laplacian matrix?
In this line number 3, so you just pass the image into this function img underscore 2 underscore graph. It will automatically create your matrix. I mean, yeah, the Laplacian matrix. Guys, is there any other doubt you have, or I can move on to the next gradient descent code?
But could you repeat again what the graph.data line does?
This is measuring the similarity between the pixel values. So this is a Gaussian kernel. As you can see from the expression, we have exponential to the power e to the power minus some numerator divided by the standard deviation, and the entire term is being squared. So this numerator denotes the difference in intensity values of 2 pixels. And then you also have the standard deviation, which is the standard deviation that you have in the Gaussian function. And this controls the width of the Gaussian kernel. And so with this line number 7, you just create a similarity matrix, which you would like to pass on to the spectral clustering algorithm. Okay, guys, so I will move on to the gradient descent algorithm for multivariate linear regression. So one of the way in which you could perform multivariate linear regression is using the normal equation. So which is a closed form. So you have you can find the parameters using the formula beta transpose beta inverse beta transpose y, which I think you must have seen in your class also. Now, can anybody just tell me what is the issue with this? What can be a potential issue with this normal equation while implementing it in real world?
Dependable data, missing data.
Yeah.
Data which is
Come again?
dependable. I mean, if two for matrix may not be invertible.
So this is this particular expression, that is beta transpose beta inverse beta transpose. This is the pseudo inverse, and calculating the inverse is computationally demanding. So if you have very large amount of data, the computational time it would take is very large. So that's why we can go into another method to do this regression, and that is using gradient descent. So in gradient descent will use some iterative technique to find the parameters that we want. And since it is a linear regression problem, we first define the linear regression cost function. So this cost function is the linear.
Hello. Ashraf, can you hear me? Ashraf, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, but I think I missed you. I'm not sure whether other people are facing the similar difficulty, but
Yes, sir, we can't hear. We couldn't hear sir either.
Time, sir.
Oh, I think somebody muted me.
yeah, Ashraf, could you please continue again, because I think you were muted and then we couldn't follow you.
Yeah, yeah. So guys, where was the point after which I?
Yeah, you can start from the beginning, because you just started up with this equation and then
okay.
we missed you.
Yeah. So guys, the inverse that we calculate in the normal equation, it is computationally demanding. So when you have large data sets, it gets very time consuming to calculate the inverse, and that's why we move on to a gradient descent, which is an iterative technique and has been shown to work pretty well for very large data sets. So since we are looking into a regression problem, we first define the regression cost function. And after that, we define the gradient descent function, in which first we would mention the number of iterations up to which we want the gradient descent to continue. And in each iteration, we'll try to find what is the error between the true and the predicted value. And then we'll update the parameters in this manner, in the line 17, where we use the formulation that new parameters would be the old parameters minus of their respective partial derivative. The respective partial derivative of the cost function that we have defined. And once we reach the required number of iterations, then we just return from this function. So we'll start executing this. And the dataset that we'll be using is a house pricing dataset. And I'll just show what is the attributes. So we have two attributes, size and bedrooms. And the value that we want to predict is price. We'll extract the size and bedrooms. And then what we want to do is we just do a normalization, which is a very standard procedure that you do before every machine learning algorithm is being applied. And now you would need to set the hyperparameters. One of the hyperparameters is iteration, which I discussed it, and the other will be a learning rate. Or over here, I have termed it as alpha. So once you do that, then we just check what is the parameter vector. So in this, I have assigned it as all 0. The parameter vectors is assigned as all 0. One more type of initialization can be from a certain random distribution, maybe from a normal distribution or a uniform distribution, which that can also be done. Yeah. And once you assign it, you just pass on the x, y, the theta, the parameter vector, and the hyperparameters, alpha and the learning rate and number of iterations. And now we'll see what happens to the error. So initially, when the vector was all 0, we were getting a very high error, but as the gradient descent started continuing, we can see that with the increase in iteration, the error rate reduced for a certain number of for a certain value till a certain iteration, and after that it remained constant. That is, it reached a minima, after which it did not change. So this particular variant of gradient descent is known as full batch gradient descent, or just you can just call it gradient descent, because we passed on the entire x and y to the gradient descent function. Now we'll look into a mini batch version of gradient descent. And can anybody just help me out in understanding what might be a potential issue with full batch gradient descent, or this particular variant of gradient descent? So one of the issues that comes up over here is when your data set is again very large, then iterating over the entire data set gets very tedious. So now we move on to mini batch version. And in mini batch version, what we'll do is we'll divide the data into chunks. And for each chunk, we will use the gradient descent procedure. So this get batches function, this is being used to divide your X and Y into different chunks. Now, instead of, now you have another function termed as mini batch, gradient descent function. And it will, for each iteration, it divides your data into a number of chunks. And for each chunk, that is for the total number of chunks you have. So you just do the gradient descent procedure that we did earlier. So for that, what you do is you find the error and then you update your parameters. For each particular chunk, you do that. And you repeat this entire procedure for the mentioned number of iterations. Let's just try it on. So over here, I have given the batch size as 2. That is, your entire data will be divided into chunks which are of size 2. So you just run it, and now you get your plot of the error, and you can see that it is reducing for some number of iterations, after which it stays stagnant. And that would be it for gradient descent. If you guys have any doubts.
Any question from any student? Okay, Ashraf, thank you. You can stop your presentation. So that is it for today's session, because we didn't have many things to cover, because I was not able to cover many things in my lectures. So the next step would be that I will give you an assignment, small assignment based on the last lab session and today's lab session, and give you some time to submit the assignment. And then from the next lab sessions, entirely we will be focusing on the deep learning things. Okay, so you can expect the next 3 lab sessions will cover the basic deep learning stuff, the CNN, the RNN and all. And we will try to give you as much detail as possible and some applications as well. So yeah, so that's it. Thank you for joining. See you on Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, can you please make everyone as an attendee, because someone just removed me the 30.
I just realized that there was somebody creating some problem. Yeah, from next class and onwards, I will do that. I will make sure that I will do that. Yes, sure.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Because someone had muted Ashraf as well. I saw suddenly he was muted. So I do not know who is doing that, but anyway. So I'll do that. Thank you.